to Lilybelle Lips, my channel. I have another book video and it's going to be super quick, super rapid fire because I've been seeing the recommendation tag going around and like it brings me back to the old YouTube days, and I used to binge the old YouTube days of everyone doing their tags and whatnot. And I saw Steph Bohrer, the booktuber queen, came up with this book recommendation tag. So there's 15 questions. I'm just gonna fly through them and hopefully you get some really good recommendations, maybe even slight different ones from my last video, which you guys seem to love, which is why I'm throwing at you another book video. And thank you so much for all the love on my previous book video. I love books, so I love throwing it in here on my channel. But without talking your ear off any longer, let's get into the book recommendation tag. It might possibly fall. I'm also going to try not to repeat because like I want to give you 15 recommendations, but there may be a couple of repeats because like I just can't think of any other book that goes with that same question. So question 1 is a book you tell people is your favorite. This is new to me, and like the old me would not have said this because I hadn't read it yet, but over the last few weeks I just can't get this out of my head. Whenever someone says what's your favorite book, Magnolia Parks, the whole universe, the whole series, Magnolia Parks, favorite book hands down. And if I'm recommending that as my favorite book, like you shouldn't even need any other words to convince you to just give this a go. Just try it. If we have the same book taste, I'm sure you'll love it. A book that is your guilty pleasure. I didn't really know how to think about this because I was like, I don't really go back and look at books, but a guilty pleasure maybe was when I was reading this was the Mindfuck series, like the whole bind up of all 5 books. I just couldn't put it down. So I'd say it was like a guilty pleasure at the time because it was just like novella after novella. I just kept wanting to read them and it was really easy to read on my Kindle, so I actually purchased the book after. But read them on your Kindle, they're quite cheap. It's so easy to just like read through and fly through the entire series, but it's like one giant book. It's so good. It like each novella leaves you on the edge of your seat. So I would say that's a guilty pleasure. Book number 3, a book everyone loved but you didn't. So I personally have not yet come across any of her books that I've really loved. Maybe it was just at the time that I was reading them, but I hate to say it, but Emily Henry. Yeah, everyone really hyped on about Beach Read, and then when she brought out Book Lovers, I just couldn't get into her writing. Everyone talks about her banter. I don't love it. So please convince me if Beach Read is actually good. Maybe I should read it, but I did not like You and Me on Vacation, which in Australia it also confuses me because I'm pretty sure they have different names. I don't know what the publishers are doing, but it is confusing me. A book I read the fastest, hands down, The Housemaid. Housemaid 1 and The Housemaid Secrets, which is book number 2 following on. I read both books in 2 days. 24 hours each. I couldn't put them down. I read them on my Kindle. They're on Kindle Unlimited. So say no further, I feel like I want to own the books physically because of how much I can't stop talking about them. They were in my last book recommendation, but if you were still umming and ahhing, this is now definitely a sign you need to read them. They are thrillers, and I don't recommend thrillers that often, but they got me back into wanting to read thrillers because the twist. Those books had a chokehold on me. I could not put them down. Okay, number 5, a book that deserves more hype. I truly believe The Switch by Beth O'Leary just deserves more hype. This book was just the cutest. The grandma, don't even get me started. She was adorable. And I just like, oh my gosh, I loved it. Lena, like she was into her career and she like just completely stuffed up. She was going for a promotion. So then she swapped lives with her grandma, Alina, who thinks she's like too old to find love. And like, it's so beautiful. Number 6 is a book that is becoming a movie or a TV show. I decided to share ones that are becoming and ones that already have. So The Flat Chair, to my surprise, I had no idea. This is the same author by The Switch, which I just recommended before. I had no idea this had even been adapted into a TV show, but then I found it. I think it was on Paramount. Anyway, that's a TV show. Loved it. It was like quite identical to the book, which I thought was really good. Secondly is the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Don't even get me started why all 3 books don't have like cohesive covers because Australia just couldn't get their shit together and just kept printing different covers. So I think like one's the American, one's the Australian, who knows. But the Summer I Turned Pretty series is a TV series. They've only kind of adapted the first book, which is actually, I read the whole first book, loved it. Second book I only got halfway through, and I think because the TV show isn't fully out yet, I just decided to hold off. So that is also a TV show. And lastly, we all know Blake Lively is about to be the star, and It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. We all know that's becoming a movie, which, excited. Umming and ahhing on how I'm going to feel about it, but excited. Is a book you reread the most? I personally don't reread books, so I don't have a recommendation for this one because I'm just always wanting to read a new book, but I don't know. Yeah, no recommendation for that one because I literally don't reread books. I don't think there's a book I've reread. So maybe comment below if you reread your books. Reread, that is such a tongue twister, but let me know if you can do it. I personally just always am ready to move on to another one. I feel like I would reread a book in like 10 years time, but then normally you've grown and I'm like, oh, that seems young for my age now. So I don't know. Number 8, a book from a genre that you don't typically read. Definitely out of my genre of fantasy, but I feel like I do want to attempt to read more. It was the ACOTAR. I do have the second book that I've started. I haven't yet finished it. I was starting to listen to it on Audible just because I found it a little bit easier, but that was out of my comfort zone and I liked it. So I feel like I definitely want to try read a few more fantasy this year. 9, a book that deserves all the hype that it gets. I have to say, Love in Other Words. I think I gave this like a 4-star, but a lot of people love this book. They say this is one they reread a lot and that it's like their 5 stars. And I have to admit, like, it deserves the hype it gets because the story, the characters, the way you can easily read it from chapter to chapter, it deserves the hype. Not my 5-star, but I love it. And yeah, it deserves that. Book that I would usually recommend when someone asks me for a recommendation. This one I feel like totally depends on the person. Like, are they new to reading? Are they asking me for like specific romance? Like, do they want a rom-com? Do they want a thriller? I don't know. I feel like I always try and give like an easy read for maybe romance, an easy romance read and then like a thriller. So I feel like my go-to recommendation would be Reminders of Him or November 9. Now that I'm thinking of it, I forgot to grab the book, but November 9, Reminders of Him, kind of a few Colleen Hoovers I could definitely throw off the top of my head to someone beginning to read and wanting romance. And then thrillers, it would have to be, like I said before, the books I read the fastest, the Housemaid series. Like, definitely recommend them to people if they want a good page-turning thriller. Okay, number 11, book that has your favorite characters. This one I recently read and it was another book nearly up with the Housemaid of how fast I read it, and it was a 600-page book, and I do not read books that big, but I could not put it down. I think I read it in 3 days, which I think that was really quick for a 600-page book. But I read it on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical copy, but it was mile high. I'll put it up here. Oh, the characters, I could just die. The hockey player and the air hostess on a plane, say no more. It was the most beautiful, slow burn, page turning. There was so much found family. There was dogs, there was romance, there was build up, like, say no more. But love that book and I love those characters. A book you wish you could live in. I think I found this so hard because I feel like there was so many books that I'd be like, wow, I'd love to live there, and then I was like, oh no, that was sad, or that was like too romantic, I don't want to live in that. But I would have to say, actually, As Good as Dead, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I feel like I would love to live in that. I could really step into my podcast era, into my detective era, and just like help solve the like murder mysteries. I feel like I would love to live in this book. Book that I thought I would hate but ended up loving. I would say hate is a strong word. I didn't think I would hate it, but I just wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure if it would make me want to continue the series, but I definitely am, and that would have to be the Addicted series. I didn't know, I knew it was hyped up and I thought maybe I'll like it, maybe I really won't like it. Like, I was like, oh, why? Their addictions that they speak about in the stories, I just thought, do I want to read about that? But turns out, yes I did. And I will finish the series because I think it is a beautiful series and I need to find out how it turns out. And I know lots of characters get introduced, so I want to know a bit more about them. But yeah, that is a book I thought I wouldn't like, but I did. I loved it. A book that made you cry. There's many books that made me cry because I am so emotional. But reminders of him, I remember being very, very sad. The other book that I cannot find would have to be, I cannot find this book and I swear I owned it, so I don't know what happened to it, but it is also a blue cover and I'll put it on the screen. But Reminders of Him and Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I feel like those two books made me cry, made me sob. Number 15 is a book I wish I could reread for the first time ever. I hate to be a repeater of my words and my books, but it has to be the Housemaid series. Housemaid 1, just the Housemaid 1, because you can't really reread number 2 once you already know. But the Housemaid 1, I wish I could reread that because I can't reread it without already knowing the plot twist that will come. I still feel like I would enjoy it rereading, but rereading, going into that having no idea again would just be the absolute best feeling, because there's nothing like just really enjoying a book, not knowing what's going to happen, loving the characters, not understanding the plot twists that are about to just smack you in the face. So I feel like I would love to reread The Housemaid going into it if I had no idea what was about to happen, and just go through all of those emotions all over again would be amazing. I would love that. Okay, that is my 15 books of the book recommendation tag. I will drop the 15 questions in the description box below, so that if you want to try the recommendation tag, or if you just want to like answer it for yourself on your phone, so that you have a go-to 15 books, a great list, that when people ask you for those specific recommendations, you just be like bang, 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 bang. You can rapid fire them yourself. I hope you enjoyed. I don't know, it just makes me so happy sharing books. Like, I just could talk about books all day, but I didn't really go into details of these books, but they are the recommendation for all of those 15 categories. So I hope you loved it. Comment below if you want to answer any of them, if you want to tell me my thoughts or be like, Lilybelle, why the heck would you want to reread that? Anything you like. I hope you enjoyed. Click the like, subscribe, all of that YouTube stuff. You know the drill. And watch my other videos if you love. I have another book video that I'm sure you might like as well, with other recommendations. So thank you so much for coming to my channel. As always, it is so muchly appreciated, because it gives me a bit more drive to want to keep making these videos, because I just love it. Have a beautiful day or night, whenever you're watching this. And as always, lots of love from Lilybelle Lifts and Eugene.